good evening or good morning or good day, wherever you are. Welcome to the mimoLive lab in After Hours. Today we have a very special treat for you if you're watching. I'm also recording this and posting it later on in the After Hours Discord. Today we will be joined by my brother Achim, who is gonna talk about the new features for the automation, and we're gonna show you some really cool stuff that we can now do with the new version of the automation layer. A couple of things. This is part of the mimoLive 6.7 beta 3 that's available right now. So if you want to go and play with it, just download it from mimolive.com/download/beta, and be careful that you don't confuse it with the release version. Two things are new in this version that we're gonna use today. One is a new version of the automation layer, and one is the video uploader. And the other one is the last recording uploader. That's what it's called, which allows you to upload the latest recording to Vimeo right now, or using rsync, SCP, or SFTP to an external computer. So you can make a recording using mimoLive, and once the recording is done, you can automatically ingest it into a content management system, and and have it there for further processing. Yeah, welcome, Achim.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone is already seeing Achim's screen. I think we should just get started with the really cool stuff. Achim, take it away.
As Oliver mentioned, we created a new version of the automation layer. This was necessary because the old one had some syntax issues, and so we changed a bit from the syntax. It's not too complicated changes, but we will see. So one important thing is that you need to start the remote control surface, the HTTP server. You will find it in remote control, and you need to switch on the remote control access here, because the automation layer is basically talking through this remote control server to mimoLive. So mimoLive actually doesn't know about the automation layer at all. Let's see. I'm creating a blank deck, just 1080p, to have something to play with. Oh, let's see, 60 frames a second. So it makes it nice. And here we go. So this is mimoLive document window, and you may know that the automation layer is in the layer library. So here it is. And I just drag it over to my layer stack to have an evidence installed here. You can see that we increased the version number to version 2. So this automation layer is actually not compatible with the old one, but mimoLive will take care of it. So if you have a document with the old automation layer, this will be still used, but if you create a new layer, then it will be the version 2. Yes, here's a small window. Unfortunately, it's too small, so we added this bigger screen to edit a script. And this one is a short demo that comes as a default that just runs a loop 4 times and switches on a layer and switches it off again. Just for demo, I start the automation layer here with this live button, and you will see the placer layer will get switched on and off 4 times with a sleep of 1 second. And how does it work? That's pretty easy. So we need to switch on a layer. There's a call layer on, and it needs a ID to know which layer to switch on. But the IDs are very long hex number strings, so you don't want to always fill around with them. So this is a new method to get the ID from the objects in mimoLive. In this case, you want to store the ID in placer layer as this is a variable. This is the kind of item you're looking for, and you name it here. And mimoLive will look for a layer that's called placer, and the first one that it finds will give you the ID of that layer. If it can't find a layer, then you won't get an ID, and probably your script won't run. And this is one here you need to keep in mind that you can't rename the placer. I mean, if you double click on the name, you can rename it, of course, but then the script won't run anymore because the placer can't be found anymore. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. Then there's a loop command that have an end. You can type in how you want to loop. You can remove it, then it won't. It will remove forever, loop forever, sorry. And then it switches on the placer layer. It sleeps for a second. This is a breakpoint that's also new. We have a debugger then now for the scripts. You can single step the scripts or run the code, and then it will break at the breakpoint to show you variables and all kind of stuff. And then we switch off the layer again, and then we sleep for a second, and this is run for 4 times. So this is the basic principle. You have a script, and the script runs in mimoLive stack. So you have full access from the remote control. You can switch it on via the remote control. You can assign a key to it, and even you can switch it on by another automation, of course. So to make things interesting, or at least I would say, no, I keep it simple first. How can I get to what type of things can I do with the automation? So, and how can I access those easily? So the easiest thing is if I, for example, if I get a lower third layer, and this layer has a name John Doe with it, there is, of course, there's a URL, an HTTP request to either read the name from that field here, or you can write to it, for example. So if you use the control click on the title here or subtitle, depending, then you get a little a pop-up menu, and it gives you some automation helpers. For example, copy URL to read title means mimoLive will put a URL to the clipboard, which gives you the title back actually in a JSON format. So let's try to write it. So also again, right click on that copy URL to change title, and it will use the current value to create the URL. Let me just quickly check or show you the complete URL in long text format. And here at the end, this is the name we want to change. You see in the URL, you need to encode everything. So I just want to put in Oliver, for example. Now I copy the URL again and call it with Safari. And in the background, you should be able to see that once I call this URL, it changes to Oliver. So this, for example, is how you can set data. You can also push buttons. Let me see if I stopwatch, for example. And also for the stopwatch, there are the buttons, and you can right click on a button and get the URL to trigger that button. Make this live just to make sure it works. Here we go. So starting the clock worked and stopping the clock. So what this shows is that, I mean, if you have any other third-party application that is able to fetch a HTTP request, you can control mimoLive on various ways, and you can do automation from outside mimoLive. Okay, so I guess this covers the basics. Let's see what we can do with it. I start from scratch. Let's say you want to create a 24 hours running show that shows where the ISS is currently circling the Earth and show it on the map. So what you need is you need a map. We have a source that will render a map for you. It's set to have a search field, so you can see Munich in the center, but we want to switch it to geolocation. So you can change it to a coordinate on our globe, and then it will just jump to it. We want to show it in a pip window layer, just to have it next to me. Here we go, and switch it live. So this is the map. I can place it somewhere on my screen. So now the interesting part is, how can I update this map to show where the ISS is currently located on that map? And there we found a website that is actually showing this data of the ISS. So you see, every time I update the URL, the latitude and longitude updated. So this should help us to update our map. And we will do so with an automation layer here. And we're reading in this data from the website. And since it's a JSON we are reading in, I use the command HTTP request JSON. So this is then already processed for me. And I want to store the data in a variable so I can process it further. I need to get the correct URL with the H at the beginning. And strings are now always required to have these quotes here. That's one of the major updates we did in the automation layer. So now I have the data in that variable, and I need to read out the longitude and the latitude. So there is the command get JSON data. I want to store it in a variable called long. I will read it from ISS data. That's all the data, and then I add a path inside the JSON data to my value of interest, and it's stored in ISS position longitude. This is my path. And the path will be, here we go, I'm sorry on that, didn't mess up here. And my path is divided by a dot. So this is my path to get the longitude. And I need a second command to actually read the latitude. You already. Needs to be accurate. Now I have the values from that JSON, the longitude and the latitude in those variables. And I need to update the map and its parameters. So again, I can find my settings here, right click on latitude, or let's start with longitude because this is the one we want to have. And there again, copy URL to change longitude. Oh, it's saying twice. It's reading and writing. Yeah. Longitude. So now I will send a HTTP request to mimoLive. with exactly this long URL. And I know I need to change this value here in that long list of values. So I'm starting with a quote. I'm ending with a quote here before the value itself. I will get rid of that. Ending with a quote, class long. That's my variable containing the new value. And then I add the rest of the command and closing brackets. And the same applies to the latitude. Again, I right click on latitude here, copy URL to change it, start in my quote character, replacing the current value. And that should actually update the map with current position. So once I start the command, the map should update. Let's see if that works. Let's see, it doesn't work because the request timed out. So there is a mistake with the request. And therefore it waits 10 seconds if there's some feedback, but usually it takes a fraction of a second. So I know that something is wrong with my code here. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. So I can step through it with the debugger. Let's see how that works. I'm switching on the debugger. I say I want to run it single step. I set it live and I need to make this a little bit bigger so you can read along. So that will line 1, that will be the next command, running it. And here we go. So this is the ISS data. There is some data. Next step will be get this data from ISS data. Let's see if that works. And it seems not to work because it doesn't show up here. It should show long or lat with the content. Interesting. Yeah, let's do the short route. I'm trying to copy and paste from my already working script. So let's see if that will fix that. That didn't seem to change much. So I'll try to run it again because I'm not quite happy with me today. I see I have the double opening brackets here. That doesn't make sense. It should have complained about it. So start it again. So now we get a value. Quite nice. Also the latitude. And let's see if that worked. I see we are somewhere in the ocean. Let's change the resolution to 2000. Here we can find where we are here. I see. It's somewhere near Canada and United States. Now that that works, we can pack the code in a loop and get update it. Run it forever. And not to overwhelm the server, we put in a sleep for 1 second. So it will update every second the position So let's see if that works. Oh, so now you can see the map is updating with the ISS position in real time. It's moving quite fast. So to recap, this is a automation within mimoLive, fetching data, live data from the internet, processing it, and putting it somewhere in mimoLive itself. We extended the commands a lot, making them more powerful to actually have logic available in the automation. The old layer more or less couldn't branch or not at that level I wanted to have it. And so there are a lot of commands controlling mimoLive or doing calculations, doing manipulations of text so that you can fetch data and put it somewhere. We can do the Zoom participants and demo. So let's see. We have a Zoom source that can read in the participants' video, audio, and also the metadata like name. And on the other hand, you want to have a lower third that will display the name once the participant is selected. So again, we want to use the automation layer, of course. And this time, we try to read the data from the Zoom meeting source. So the endpoint elements, right-clicking on the Zoom again, copy source endpoint to clipboard, build a URL for it. That looks like this. This is the endpoint of the Zoom source. And to actually get data from it, I need to add my HTTP request data and see if that works. Here we go. So this is the data I get from the Zoom source currently. And here in there is the name of the Zoom user. Currently it's empty because there is none selected. And this is the value I want to fetch. So this goes into my automation layer. HTTP request JSON, store the data in Zoom source. This is the URL where you get the data from. I have the data. And the next step would be to read out the data from the Zoom source. I need to adjust this quickly. The data is stored in data.attributes.zoom username. And I will store it in Zoom username. Here we go. And then the next step would be to send it to my lower third. And again, jump to my lower third, find my title, hope here to change the title, back to my automation, have my HTTP request as usual, and here we go. Here is the data I want to replace. But now I need to make sure that it's encoded. Encoded name plus, and again location, and the encoded name variable I need to fill with encode. There should be the value stored in this variable, and it should encode the Zoom name. Here we go. So this should actually do it. Absolutely, I try so. Join Zoom meeting. I think so. So now I joined the Zoom meeting. We have some talking heads here. You can select the L Blackwater, for example, and run my automation. Let's see, I can start it. Actually, I want to have it pre-configured, like I run this script and you see the Algen Blackwater is now filled in here. And when I start my lower third, I have automatically the name of the Zoom participant here. Now this value is stored once, of course. So we need to do a loop so that the automation layer is running endless and updates it, for example, every second. That should be enough for now. Sleep again for 1 second and then loop. So this means it runs endless. Let's see if that works. Now it's running endless. And whenever I switch the participant, automatically the lower third also get the new name from Zoom. So I don't have to enter the name. So this is spotlighting. So currently it's waiting for spotlight. So nothing is spotlighted right now. And Alden Blackwater is spotlighted. We can switch it off again. Here we can quickly set that up. So you can see here's the lower third. Use the regular lower third. Run it. Certainly you can do it the other way. So what you want to do is you don't loop here. You just start the lower third from the automation layer in the end. So once it fetched the automation layer, let me just demo it for you. Our copy layer, API point. Go back here. The only thing you want to change is not to start the lower third, but the automation. So you rename this to start lower third. So you know this will start the lower third. And you see the RIA Stinson is currently live. So I start that and it will fetch the current name until it's finished. So you see, currently it's Riha and the speaker is Amalia. And once I start on my command, then it will update the lower third. Here we go. Yeah. Sure, because currently because the automation is not running anymore. It's still correct. So if I just press it again, it will update the lower third immediately. So the automation layer could control, examine what is currently in the Zoom source and what is written in the lower third. And then it can compare it, and once it's different, then it will shut down the lower third, for example. You can come up with all kind of logics you need to implement here. In the first implementation I did, I had also multiple Zoom sources. For example, if you have 6 Zoom sources and you have multiple variants of a lower third, then you can update depending on which source, Zoom source has changed, because you can say this is always Eldon and the next one is always Malia. And then by the automation script, you assign the first to the first lower third and the second to the second lower third. If you want to have distinguished buttons for each, and you can, and once you switch one in the slot, then it automatically will update that single lower third. My brother also come up with the idea that if you have an ISO recording for a certain source, let's select the Eden again, then currently we just write the file with that unspecific file name, just having the project with it and the date and the time. But you can update this on the fly when this name is changed and add this name, for example, so that you can see your ISO recording is not only that file, but also containing the name of the participant. So this will show also a new feature in mimoLive. That's the last recording uploader. It's currently configured to send the recording to Vimeo. You can have a local folder or use rsync to send it to any server via SSH. Let's stick with my Vimeo account. So, and this last recording uploader is listening actually to this or to any file recording you have running. So once you stop the file recording, it gets notified, it will show the recording here. And once you press the start button, it starts uploading the video to Vimeo. And my automation script is quite sophisticated, just to show you what's how complex you can get. And this script actually, it takes advantage of a lot of new features in the automation. And just to go through it, let me see. So what I'm doing here is a little bit of best practice. I don't want to have all those complicated URLs within my, so I can read my code much better. So I transfer them and give them useful variable names. And then later on, I use only the variable names so that my code is more readable. For example, to update a value, I have my URL, that's the base URL for that layer. I have a part of the URL that is, as you can remember, we exchanged the John Doe part, and this is, let's say, this is the John Doe part, and this is the end, and this is the beginning of the complete URL. So, but in the end, I can read this much more clearer than having all those URL stuff here going on. And this actually will start the uploader. It will wait for a URL that Vimeo is responding with, so that I have a download URL for you. And so I get this should be enough to have something. So I stop the file recording. Now it's recognized by the uploader. And we also have a progress bar that shows the upload. mimoLive, this is just a box layer that draws a box on the screen. So I can reposition it and make it any size. And the automation layer now asks the uploader, what is your progress, and updates the progress bar. So the progress bar is just a box layer, and it doesn't know about anything about the uploader, and the uploader doesn't know anything about the progress bar. And the link is this script here. And it runs in a loop, and it not only updates the progress bar, but it's also waiting for the viewer link from Vimeo. And once we get it, it updates this text source and shows this text then on screen. So once the video is accessible, or the URL is accessible by Vimeo, then we will see the URL. So take a look at this program out. And actually, we did this for a kiosk application. So someone asked us to, he want to try to upload the Vimeo and present a progress bar. Here we go. It starts uploading. You see the progress bar, and the link for the Vimeo can be read here. So, and this is all connected via this automation script. And the idea was that the user can now type in the URL on their own. The people in front of the camera, the people that using this kiosk application, can now use this link to download their own recording. For mimoLive, you just log into your Vimeo account. And from there, we can use the API to upload a video to your account. So we don't have a login implemented by our own. So once you click on, I want to add a Vimeo account, then it brings you to the regular Vimeo login.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll have more cool stuff coming up.